Knuckles Comic Issue 4. The story starts out with Vector swimming under a river, and already I was really confused because I assumed he had been taken into a crazy new dimension for some reason. I guess it didn't look watery enough. But no, he was just swimming randomly. I like how it's shown that he's the type to do that as a hobby, even singing in his head a parody of Under the Sea. So I guess he's a fan of The Little Mermaid, because that exists in the Sonic universe. But yeah, I do like that because it develops his character more, making him seem like the kind of fun-loving guy who'll do stuff like go swimming just for fun, rather than purely being about listening to rock music on headphones he always wears. You'd think he'd want to keep those headphones or Walkman or whatever at home to avoid breaking them. But maybe it's just because he's not a careful person. Again, he's fun-loving. Those headphones must be waterproof to still work even when he goes underwater with them though. First it can blast a ridiculous amount of sound out of them, and then they're waterproof. Those are some headphones. Anyways, his swimming around got him to see a Dark Legion goon all alone and try to pounce on it from the river, only for him to miss and get knocked out with a single punch, as a guy holding a weird device with sparks around him says that he's gonna go after Knuckles. That he's got his own echidna to fry. Then we cut to our impatient hothead Knuckles meditating. Wait, what? Oh good, never mind, they lampshade it. As he wakes up smiling, and Archimedes complains about him never taking his meditation training seriously. Well, why would he? He's just sitting there napping and humming like a doofus. That's what it looks like to me anyways. He's reminding me of Avatar Korra, who didn't really like meditating at first either. And she was hot-headed like him. Then Archimedes notices an enemy approaching from behind and warns Knuckles, smartly in a whisper, to attack when told. I gotta say, I find it pretty weird seeing people who look so menacing with their cloaks up talking like regular people, thugs even. Knuckles takes the hood off his enemy to see a pink-haired echidna. It doesn't make sense that female echidnas would have pink hair, either through gender dimorphism or dyeing it. Although Tikal's a girl and she doesn't have pink hair, so it looks weird in retrospect. Knuckles is so confused and distracted by finding out that his enemy was a girl that she gets a free hit on him, and threatens him with a weapon, creating a cool orange electricity ball. Seriously though, how the hell did he not know that was a girl's voice talking to him? I'm trying to imagine she has a kind of mannish voice, the kind where you could mistake it for the voice of a 14-year-old boy instead, because that's the only explanation I can think of, since she's acting like he should have known this all along, so it's not like she had a voice disguiser in her cloak or anything. Archimedes then destroys the girl's weapon with his fire breath, and asks her where the rest of Kragok's thugs are. It's really weird to hear Knuckles just call her female. It seems like an unexpected dick move on his part, and Archimedes isn't calling him out on it despite being the more mature one. Anyways, she says, as I guess, that her name is Julie Sue. So this is Julie Sue. She says that she doesn't know where they are, so either she's lying or she got ditched by them and is now going to turn on them for it. Julie explains that Kragok was so paranoid of Knuckles learning what the whole deal was that he activated the self-destruct sequence. So that's why his base randomly crumbled apart. Then why did Knuckles' father talk as if he only doesn't know what happened because he's not a real guardian yet? Julie had been about to leave when she saw Knuckles, and tried to follow, but ended up getting separated from the Legion. She then says that she had wanted to rejoin the Legion, naturally since they're probably all she's ever known, like a family that's in a cult, but I just can't. It's been like someone's forcing their will over mine. I admire the strong, independent nature. She's reminding me of Amy Rose from SA1 without the stalker part, to be honest. But well, she's going to let Knuckles and Archimedes tell her what to do for the most part later on, so what's the point? She leaves because she doesn't want people to force their will on her, and then she ends up following orders anyways? And if you grew up with your family in a cult, or the Dark Legion rather, you'd think you would have been brainwashed into obedience your whole life to the point where you can't be this way. If she was the rebellious type, she would have left a long time ago, because she was really attached to her family then. I'm sure Kragok wouldn't have noticed one measly cloaked goon leaving him. They all look the same. Then she says that she had to find him, but just doesn't know why. Makes sense, since not only was that her plan from the start and she's too stubborn to give up on it, but also because the logic in the back of her mind was probably telling her that if she's getting herself separated from the support of her family now that she has even the weakest of excuses, Knuckles being the hero is all she has left for potential support. And because of a certain something that's explained way later. I'm well aware of it by this point. That's part of why I'm not suspicious of her. Well, aside from her saying she's going to fry Knuckles after beating Vector in the fight, and punching Knuckles and trying to threaten him with a weapon, and now all of a sudden she's on his side? It's kind of weird that this doesn't backfire, and it just seems so sudden. SBO explains after Vector is prevented from attacking Julie that when he found Vector recovering from her attack, something strange happened in the Marble Zone. You don't need the there, that sounded clunky. And I was confused by him mentioning Marble Zone since they're on Angel Island. I guess in the comic universe, Marble Zone is part of Angel Island now. Well, it is an ancient ruins area. The text blurb doesn't even lampshade this and instead just asks how many people remembered that Vector lives on the outskirts of Marble Zone. Not me, that's for sure. Vector explains that the ground had been shaken there, to the point where it felt like everything was going to split apart. And Knuckles naturally points out that's weird that he hasn't felt anything here, probably since this is taking place on a small island. Archimedes annoys me, saying, "This is a pretty big island, Knuckles, a world unto itself." Really? I never knew that. To be fair, it was never explained exactly how big Angel Island was, but if it's like the size of a continent, you'd think that'd only make it a lot more likely that people would find it flying in the sky or planes would have to avoid it and stuff. Make it all the more weird that Sally tried to have us believe that only the royal family knew of its existence. And considering it was formed from one city being sent into the sky, somehow I doubt it's that big. What is it, sort of bigger on the inside than on the outside deal? There's no need for that confusing line of his. Julie says that it may be her former comrades testing some new device, with Vector complaining that she's still dressed like a Dark Legion goon. Well, it's not like she has access to new clothes. Oh wait, she can just take the robe off until she's wearing clothes under them, never mind. Is it just me, or is she dressed kinda skimpy? I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt and assume she's at least 13. Anyways, after Knuckles' father expresses concern over not foreseeing this happening, clearly trusting her about as little as Vector does, which I like. It makes her more of a sympathetic, scrappy underdog with the distrust she's getting. Knuckles makes a plan. He says Archimedes and him will check things out, and orders everyone else, including Julie, to wait for a signal if things get out of control. Even though he's not going to leave holding a cell phone that will be able to contact them, so how is he going to signal them? But other than that, he's being pretty smart here, which makes sense for the careful foil of Sonic. He's being vague rather than telling a former enemy and possible spy exactly what he's planning against the Dark Legion, and he's telling her to stay with his friends where she'll be supervised, and not counting on her for a really important mission right away, as she'll only serve as backup with the rest of them. However, Julie expresses concern that they're leaving her behind. You want to talk, you left your family behind. Maybe it's from suppressed guilt over doing that to them, making her fear that she'll get that happening to her as karma. She complains that that's the trouble with guys, always thinking they know what's best for everyone. Yeah, 'cause women never do that. So, is she like a man-hater or something? Well, this is certainly new. Knuckles immediately relents and lets a potential double agent come with him on an important mission, when he could have easily just ignored her complaining. Knuckles' father and some other echidna who looks older than him seem very wary of this, and we cut to Knuckles and Julie complaining that they've been walking for hours without a single tremor, a tremor which would have clued them in to where they need to go. I kinda like how she talks, saying bub. It makes me imagine that she talks like a punk, which gives her a sort of rebellious delinquent who's still a hero appeal. After the two briefly argue, they get thrown upwards a little from tremors, I guess with light below them, and then they look at an advanced city they just noticed, so I'm assuming this means the city rose out of the ground. Archimedes is naturally really worried at seeing this, assuming that the Dark Legion made it, I guess. And Julie is just as surprised as Knuckles is, at least from what she's saying. So maybe they really kept Dark Legion goons in the dark, and only informed them of stuff the minute they're happening. Knuckles complains that it's back again. You mean Dimitri City, I guess? But his city was in Sandopolis. Guess they moved it. Why don't you blame me for everything else while you're at it? I like that line. It makes sense that she'd be annoyed by this. And as I kinda sympathize with her, it's cathartic reading it. At this point I really hope it's not revealed that she's a traitor after all right now. Archimedes breaks up the argument being the mature adults of the group and leads everyone into Echidnopolis. So the city was actually surrounded by a portal back in time. I'm loving this right now. I'm excited just looking at this. I thought it only existed in stories my father told me. Are you serious? Knuckles honestly thought it was just a fairy tale. Echidna society must have really regressed to the point of not even having third world level education standards if Knuckles didn't learn about this place in history class. Did his father even give him a history class? Julie notices that nobody's been paying attention to them, and wonders if they're just ghosts to them, which would have made no sense, but then that's disproven immediately as it seems that Knuckles was recognized by his mother. It has to be at least someone who would know his name. I actually laughed a little at Knuckles' reaction to this. He's saying it so quietly and calling her mother and stuttering in embarrassment. It's cute to see a tough guy so flustered. Still, it makes perfect sense as she's questioning. I can't believe that a son wouldn't recognize his own mother. Although it doesn't make sense as she's smiling while saying this. I'm pretty confused right now. Echidna Polish was supposed to exist 400 years ago, so if Knuckles' mother existed that long ago, then what, was Knuckles frozen in time? Like the Fleetway Knuckles, or Fry from Futurama? Or is this not actually his mother, instead just a trick being played on him? More importantly, what the hell kind of father was Knuckles' father to have never even described his mother to him? Seriously, do they not have pictures in the new Echidna cult? Are those evil technology too? And Archimedes thinks that he's looking at some major damage control here. Why? What did he do? Aw, this is sweet. I realize it's been a while, Knuckles, but do you think you could give me a hug? Knuckles then says that he thought she was dead, explaining why we haven't seen her until now. Then he elaborates that his father only said she was gone, and that he jumped to conclusions naturally. Knuckles explains that his father was the only Echidna he'd ever known until recently, so he had never thought to question it before. Sadly, the city disappears for some reason before he can get that hug or continue the conversation, and I'm completely on board with him snapping at Archimedes like this. His lines are really cathartic. I'm betting you know, Archie. I'll bet you know everything. What the deal is with my parents, why I haven't seen any other Echidnas until recently. Yes, you tell him. I still like Archimedes, but he really does deserve it for being sneaky and withholding information from his own friend for so long. Still though, how did Knuckles figure out that he knew everything? He didn't say anything. Archimedes insists that he's still not ready to know. He doesn't have much faith in him, does he? And then as the ground opens up beneath him, Julie grabs him to save him and snarks that that's one you owe me, in her expected sassy punk manner. I gotta tell you, I'm loving her already. I was honestly expecting her to have no personality at all, or be a Mary Sue, considering how people who hate all the extra Echidnas in this comic complained about Mary Sue utopias and stuff. But despite literally having the word Sue in her name, she doesn't qualify. She's just a spunky, entertaining character. And I love how she's interacting with the other characters, with Knuckles arguing with her, not wanting to swallow his pride and admit that he needed her help, and with her showing respect and gratitude for Archimedes being the mediator of the situation, remarking, at least one of you has a link of common sense. I actually chuckled at that. That's a really charming line. And even more charming lines right after that, as she remarks, is he always like this? And Archimedes replies, he's actually gotten better. Indeed he did. I used to hate him. Then Echidna Polish returns, but this time everyone's in a panic. I assume it's because from their point of view they're warned of the white meteor coming to destroy them. I mean, they are saying it's the end of the world. Seriously, I really hope this whole time portal thing and his mother being here gets a good explanation soon. It seems to come out of nowhere, as much as I love it. It would really feel like a waste if this was the only issue where Knuckles had to explore this place. Please tell me he gets to reunite with his mother again and that she's not dead or something because of the apparent time skip. Then Julie points out a sign dedicating a monument to the Guardian Hawking. Oh, like Stephen Hawking, how creative. The creator of the hyperzone projector that their civilization endures because of for some reason. Don't worry, we're gonna find out about the hyperzone projector later. Knuckles comes to the conclusion, probably out of desperation, that they have to find out what happened to Hawking and his projector to get their answers. Unfortunately, the story ends with what I assume is some kind of cop detective demanding Knuckles and Julie Sue to come with him pretty quick. This story was written by only Ken Penders, so it's ironic that this ended up being my favorite issue in the Knuckles comic so far. I was really pleasantly surprised by this one, and it's all thanks to Julie Sue. I didn't exactly have high hopes for her from what little I'd heard about her beforehand, But I was blown away by her entertaining, spunky punk personality. And she's a sympathetic, scrappy underdog character because some people don't trust her. And she appreciates Archimedes being mature and level-headed, make her even more sympathetic instead of lashing out at him too. The only problem with her is that it's not really fully explained why she took the easiest possible lame excuse to abandon the Dark Legion and be buddies with Knuckles. Especially after, she said she was gonna fry Knuckles, and she punched him and tried to use a weapon against him, and now all of a sudden she's buddies with him? I can only assume it's that red string plot point introduced much later that's the only answer. I can accept that, in lieu of any better explanations. I also really like Knuckles having a cathartic conflict with Archimedes while being a bad friend by hiding a bunch of information from him. Partially because it's about time their friendship have a downturn for once to make things interesting. And I loved them getting to come to Kingdom Palace, as I love that future city concept. It's more interesting than the Sonic Adventure echidna things, even if they didn't really get to explore all of it yet. And Knuckles only very briefly meeting his mother there, and then being kicked out of the city for some arbitrary reason, left me really wanting more. I'm still wondering how his mother lived in the past, unless she found a way to time travel there out of a desire to live there. I'm hoping that with Knuckles being questioned by those official-looking people in the ending, it'll lead to the city being more fleshed out by Knuckles exploring it more. Also, one last thing I'd like to say is that I was surprised by the lack of past flashbacks in this issue. Do they finally get a clue that interrupting the story in the present with them was a problem? Are they gonna alternate now? I think I'd be okay with that. Only 2 more stories to go before we're back to the main comic. And so far, this comic is pretty alright. It seems to be just as good as the original one, all because it has a strong main character. And with Julie's spunky personality, I'm feeling like it can only get better.